Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. On the show, we talk as much about what made playing that game special or memorable for our guest as we will get into the context of how and when they had this meaningful time with it. A little bit of housekeeping up top is that if you want to support the show, there's a million ways to do that. I used to do a ton of housekeeping for the podcast that I think lasted close to 3 minutes. It turns out it's a long time to make your guest wait, and me pontificating about it now is probably going to come out to a similar amount of time. That being said, if you want to learn more about the show, where to find us on social media, how to support us, where to leave a rating and review, all that jazz, you can check out the links in the show notes of wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on a podcast player somewhere, on YouTube, or what have you. But the most important thing I'll direct people to is our Patreon. We're over at patreon.com/super NPC Radio, where we have a ton of bonus video game podcast content from myself and the creators of our network. Right now, we're actually wrapping up our Resident Evil 2 Games Club, where we go through that game with a fine-tooth comb, episode by episode, over a whole quarter. So we're doing 9 episodes on this one game. It's almost done. And if you're listening to this in the future, we've already decided our next Games Club. The patrons have voted, but I know when this is coming out, and it's going to be wrapped up by then. So again, if you like me and the conversations I have with people about video games, check us out on Patreon. You can find a link in the show notes as well. That'll do it for the housekeeping, and I'll finally introduce our guest for today's episode. So please welcome the co-host and showrunner of Eat It or Yeet It and the lead writer for Tabletop News, Garrett Palm.
Hi! Thanks for having me.
Pal.
Is Resident Evil 2 the one set in Spain?
That is Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I've only played, this is the only one I've ever played, but I'm kind of familiar with the series.
Yeah.
So that one also has one of the 2 same leads, though. Leon Kennedy with the swoopy hair.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with him, yeah. Have you played that one?
I've only played 4. We had it when I first moved to New York City, and my friend would play it late at night, and we had to tell him to stop because he would scream. We told him, you can't play this past 10 p.m. because you're screaming while playing it.
Yes.
He was a very, he was an actor, a very sensitive person. And he was
just really
screaming nonstop playing that game.
Just getting into it as much as one possibly can.
Yes.
Wow. Well, shout out to your roommate, and great for you for having that conversation. Garrett, we have friends. We're in relationships. Sometimes, conflict is difficult, and
yes,
I'll just commend your past self for doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. It was, he took it very well. He knew.
Huge.
He knew. He knew what he was doing.
Good. I'm feeling good about that. Garrett, I'm so excited to have you here. I always talk about how I know my guests on the show, so we'll get into that part right now. I know you how I know the majority of the guests who joined me on this podcast through the Los Angeles improv community. And I sometimes try to identify the moment I met someone. I can't say the exact moment, but I do remember quite certainly the era. It was right after you and Rachel and Patrick moved to LA, because that was 2018, or did you move a little earlier?
I think 2017.
2017. Gotcha.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember now.
It had to have been 2017 because this is my sports fan brain is kicking in, but in the improv way, where I'm because Rachel made Mess Hall fall of 2017, so you had to have been here.
Oh yeah. So maybe it was 2016 because we got here in the fall.
Gotcha.
So we moved down here in September, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, 2016 because it's been 7 years. We've been here 7 years. Yeah.
Wow. Dang. Time flies. But
I know.
I remember you three, because we were, your listeners have also heard about mock improv way too much on this show.
Okay, good.
Because I think I've probably almost had every former mock person on. But that's when I started to become familiar with you three. I don't know how you got connected to it, but you three started guesting like around the time maybe I was even starting to like guest on the show and just got to chatting with you three and learned more about you. And it was just, just a delightful presence. Not just yourself, Garrett, but your
Oh,
whole
thank yeah,
cohort.
we were called the Portland Bedbugs.
Was
Uh,
is that like a team name or?
no, that's just what people at Mock decided to call us because I think I don't remember why. It was something like we kind of infested Mock with our
That
Portlandness.
What a like disparaging way to describe how
Yeah,
you joined Mock, but hey, it's a brand
yeah.
and those are strong.
We got on because the person running Mock at that time, Greg, was also our coach,
Okay,
and
huge.
he kind of recognized that the three of us had a connection. We had a
Yes.
bond. We had played together a lot already, so it's
Yes.
just like easy to slot us in.
Totally. So that's how I became familiar with you. But we've known each other since then. It just always we
Hmm.
don't hang out a ton, but when we do get a chance to chat and hang out, gosh,
It's always delightful.
it's a
Yeah,
dream.
yeah.
But what do you want to share with the listener about yourself, whether it's more background or like what you're up to currently?
Well, I mean, we joked about it ahead of time, but we also have a Modesto connection.
Yes, we
Just because
do.
you are, is it famously from Modesto?
It is famously. Thank you
Yeah.
for
Okay.
asking.
Yes. Yeah. And then my partner Rachel is from Modesto, by way of
Yes.
Portland, but she grew up in Modesto, and so I've spent a lot of time in Modesto, and yeah, we like to catch up on Modesto topics from time to time. I enjoy
It's
that.
it's just what a topic that never grows stale. Like old Modesto chat. Yeah, it was. Obviously
Yeah.
we had our own connection, but like that was a kind of. It felt crazy, even though it's not a kind of discovery that Rachel and I eventually made. I don't even remember how it happened, but came out that we were both from Modesto, that we went to high
Yeah.
schools within a couple miles of each other, that
Yeah.
I knew her ex-boyfriend because I went to like
Yeah.
junior high with him,
Yeah.
and just
Uh,
more and more connections, like
her
just
ex
absolutely crazy.
her ex-boyfriend, who everybody, it comes in like cycles, like once a
Yes.
year. He had a viral video where he's Gumby and his dog's favorite toy is Gumby, and he gets excited to see giant Gumby, his
Yes.
owner in a Gumby costume. And it's gone. More people have seen that video than any video I've made on Smosh, and people like to shove that in my face.
You're like, well, I'm adequate in my own ways,
Yep. Yep.
and we've been together for 10 years or so.
9. Yeah.
9. Okay, cool. So yeah, that is hilarious. But I remember actually seeing that video. I didn't know it was this guy's video because he's obviously, you don't see his face. He's
Yeah, I
in the
don't.
costume. But then like I think she told me that, I was like, that is absolutely crazy. So if anyone's seen the Gumby video, and there's
Yeah.
one Gumby video, you know what you're
There's
talking
one
about.
Gumby video. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about that is like, I don't know, somehow it came up on Reddit, and then somebody commented like, I know the I kind of know the ex the new boyfriend of this person's ex, and he hates that video. He's so mad, and then everybody in the Reddit is like, "What a petty! Come
Oh
on,
my
this
God.
loser!" And I joined in like, it's like, wouldn't you hate it? Like, so there's like people that think I'm legitimately upset by this video.
Gosh, just the way things spread on the internet is absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
Like that just became a wildfire of that. Absolutely nuts. You're from the Pacific Northwest, or do I just assume that because
No.
you came from Oregon?
Yeah, I was not born in Oregon, but I am from
Mhm.
Oregon. Yeah, I moved there when I was 10, and yeah, just kind of I moved. I was there like 10 to 18, left for college, New York City, etc. Moved back when I was oh gosh, 34. And
Nice.
started at Improv Theater. If you're in Portland, check out Kickstand Comedy. My friend is Dylan and Kara. They're running it now, and they've like taken it to
Awesome.
new heights. Like they just opened up a new space. But it's really cool to see how how they've grown it. But yeah, so did improv, and that's where I met Rachel and Patrick, and
Yes.
eventually moved down to here. But yeah, I'm a Portland boy. I'm very proud to be a Portland boy. It's a
Okay,
city
cool.
with a lot of flaws, like every city, but I love it. I
Hey, no
love it.
shame.
It's a great town, lots of great food.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay, good. I'm glad I got my Garrett bearings on even better at this point. But yeah, do you want to share? I know we talked, I introduced
Yeah,
you by
yeah.
talking about a couple shows you're involved in. Did you want to promote or talk about those at all?
Yeah. I mean, I guess one of the other ones. Well, tabletop news is exciting. We have episode 8 coming out on Thursday. It's a
Ooh,
weekly news show with a comedic take. It's very fun. I'm the lead writer, and my writing team kills it. My research team kills it every week. We're just coming out with new board game stuff. A lot of video
dang.
games coming to board games. I don't
I
know if you've
bet.
seen this.
Yes.
A lot. It's a big trend right now.
It's a lot of
Excuse
good
me.
crossover currently.
Yeah. And then just I don't know. I'm working again on mine and Rachel's podcast, Agents
Yes.
of Travel. It's a very fun one. We've got some episodes that I'm in the middle of editing, and then we got to record a few more, and then we're going to release season 2 sometime soon. I don't know, but
Exciting.
yeah, got some fun guests on it. Got somebody who was a former ambassador to
Whoa.
like a not like a not real country, an unreal country, if you
What?
will.
Hey,
But
okay, very nice connection.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I may be jumping ahead there, but uh, like a crypto country that he just stumbled into becoming the ambassador to Somaliland for this crypto country.
Wow.
It's fascinating. It was fascinating. When the episode comes out, listen to it. You'll get the full story. I
I
don't know when
can't
that will
wait.
happen. Yeah,
That's incredibly fascinating. My
yeah.
goodness. Dang. Well, anything that, you've already plugged or continue to plug today, I'll be sure to put a link in as well in the show
Thank
notes so that
you.
the listener can just click. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to organize all that. But fantastic. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about yourself? Or do you feel like you did the job
I
you
think
set
I
out to do?
I think I did the job right now. If anybody wants to read any like my pilot or anything, but that's that's it.
Your email is currently just exploding with
Yeah, I
requests.
know. Oh,
Yes.
oh, great. I'm so glad I came on.
Hey, it's the Connor guarantee. If you come on Call Me by Your Game, you will get a job as a writer in Hollywood.
Great.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much for sharing about yourself.
Yeah.
We're, of
Thanks
course,
for
going to
asking.
get into, your general history with video games. But before we do, will you please introduce what you've brought on for today's main event and Call Me by Your Game?
So I brought on Unreal Tournament, a game from 1999. It's a first-person shooter. It's largely multiplayer. I think you could play it, one player against a bunch of bots, but it's like there's like a very loose storyline. I don't
Yeah.
remember, there's not really, but it's like a Mortal Kombat style storyline. Like, you fight, so for some reason there's people are fighting each other in like a gladiator style tournament. But yeah, just a 1999 first person shooter.
Can't
Unreal
wait to
Tournament.
get into it. It's like, we are, because this is episode 191 when it comes out. We technically had some like unlisted episode like some episodes, like a holiday special that didn't have a number back
Okay.
when I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I was doing, but I really didn't know. And we have a bunch of other bonus stuff that's on the Patreon. But 191 episodes in, we're really filling out the catalog of games well.
I
And this
bet.
is one of those classic first-person shooters that has not been discussed. And so I'm looking forward to getting into it. I want to save, most of that chat for like the second half of the show. So let's get into the rest of your gaming history.
Cool.
Do you remember like your earliest memory taking an interest in a video game?
I think so. I was trying to remember the system. So
Yes.
I'm a bit older. I'm
Wiser.
and wiser. Thank you. I always
You're
forget
welcome.
that part.
You're wise. You got to remember.
I know. And in the early 80s, there was, I think this was the system. My grandma at one point, for when we would come down to Costa Mesa, here in California, she had, I think it was in television.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
Yeah. And I think the game that I would play a lot was Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh my goodness.
And it had nothing to do with the actual, very little, to do with the actual Dungeons and Dragons, which I would play later in my life. But like, yeah, I just remember, and in my head, I was like Googling it last night to prep, and I was like, this can't be it. The graphics were so much better. But no, it was the early 80s. That's what the graphics were. Like
your child brain always, or at least this is a common thing with games, especially, and maybe movies, but games, I feel like, because the graphics are such an important part of them. Like, we imagined games looked way better than they actually did, especially from like when we grew up. Yeah,
and it might have been a later version of Intellivision than I am finding. I can't remember the exact dates. It was, because like I was born in 79, like, and
good year
by a day, but like so I was probably like six to 8, I bet I was playing this game.
Wow.
So like 86, 88 is when.
Okay.
Maybe earlier, I don't know. Then we got a Nintendo. Played all of that. Played. My dad would keep it up in the closet.
Yes.
And then bring it out when we were allowed to play it.
Whoa.
Mario 1, 2, and 3.
You just unlocked like a memory for me, which I love. This is an occasional phenomenon, and I do think it is a phenomenon when it happens on the show. Because normally it's me unlocking memories for people because I'm, interviewing and asking. But I'm remembering our original Nintendo as well, the first console we had. That was something that they would also, they being my parents, would bring out and then put away. It wasn't just left out.
Yep.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I was just really attached to that.
Yeah, like back in the day, systems weren't just always attached to the TV. It was like, I feel like a lot of parents would have it. They didn't know what it was, and so they kept it under pretty tight control.
Yeah,
would bring it out.
Wow.
And then I loved Super Mario 2.
Yes,
like that was my favorite for a while because it was like different from the first one. It was a little weirder, a little off. Like
very weird, very strange. So there's an often told piece of gaming lore out there, which you might be privy to, but I'll ask you, did you know that Super Mario Brothers 2 is based on a different game? It's actually adapted.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Like in Japan, it's a different game.
Yes. But anyway, I love the same game that you love, Super Mario Bros. 2. It's so, like you said, it's very strange, but it also introduced like a lot of personality to the Mario series that wasn't necessarily there in the first one, which I really appreciate.
And then Super Mario 3 took our house by storm.
Yes.
Like, even my dad was the first one to beat it, and my sisters played it. But like I remember, because my dad, like I was thinking about this, like why it was so like crazy to me, because like I think now dads grew up with video games.
Yes.
Like dads are all, my age. They have played video games their whole lives, so it's like normal for a kid to see their dad playing a video game, or mom, both.
Yeah.
But like, growing up, when my dad got hooked on Mario 3, he had never really played video games before.
Yeah, wow.
and he was obsessed.
So he had like that, basically that whole learning curve to not just get into and get over, but then he became proficient enough to beat the game, and it's not an easy game.
No.
Yeah.
It's not. But yeah, that like our whole family was playing it. And
okay, cool.
And then Game Boy, we played what was it? Faceball 3000 or something?
Sounds familiar.
Do you know this? It's just like your big faces kind of going through a maze, like circle smiley faces going through a maze, shooting pellets at each other.
Would you connect this with the link cable?
Yes.
Oh my
and that
gosh.
Was, my sister and I would play this on the drives from Portland to Costa Mesa, which are like 16-hour drives. So we'd be sitting in the back of the minivan.
That's a lot of Faceball.
The Game Boy. Yeah. That and Tetris, and I think whatever Mario was on the early Game Boy.
Super Mario Land.
Yes, Super Mario Land. Played that a lot.
Oh, that's good. So and just to I wanted to clarify one thing. So was that like in television sort of like the kickoff for all of you?
Yeah.
In a way?
Yeah. That was the first one. And I think I don't know if my family played that much. I know my cousin and I played it, and mostly myself. Like, everybody would be at the pool. We would be at my grandma's pool, and I'd be just inside playing the television until my parents caught me.
Yeah, a boy after my own heart.
Yeah,
and trust me, I like the pool, but sometimes a video game would just capture me.
Yep.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like your whole family, they were playing games. Did you continue gaming after the Game Boy? Where did your journey go from there?
From there, my mom had we had like this big home office at my house when we moved to Portland, and my mom worked as like HR for some company, and it was like an international company, tiny society kind of thing. And the headquarters was in my parents' house. And
it was goodness.
Just like in this big office, and like they had like 2 or 3 employees, and
they were coming to work at your house.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And there was like they had the early Macs. Like the Apple IIe, maybe? Is that what it is?
Could be.
I want to say. Yeah. On a LAN network for the work.
Okay.
So after people would go, the workers would go home. And the workers, we knew them. They were all like friends of my mom. Like my mom just hired her friends.
Yeah.
But after they would go home, my friends and I would go in there and play this Star Trek game. Because I love Star Trek. And there was like this Star Trek game where you're like, I don't remember. It was like, it was like black and white and like pretty rudimentary graphics. But you'd kind of like be going around the galaxy looking for each other. And then you'd like get into a solar system. And then if the other person was there, you'd fight each other.
Oh, wow.
And like fly around and fight and then try to escape or get away or whatever. If you were losing. But yeah, it was like my first like LAN gaming
experience.
And then what was a friend of mine growing up, he invented LiveJournal.
What the heck?
Yeah, my friend, he like his dad worked for Intel.
Okay.
So he was like always doing like computer stuff. So he would throw LAN parties, and there was like sometimes for his birthday he would like rent out like where there are a bunch of computers for video games.
Gosh, what would they like a computer internet cafe? Yeah.
In downtown Portland, and rent it out overnight, and we'd all play I think Doom or Quake or whatever, like head to head. This was like mid 90s.
Okay, cool.
High school, and it was just like all night playing these games. Or like we'd go to his house, and like his house was super wired up, and so like he had like computers everywhere, and so we'd have LAN parties at his house, and Yeah, so like lots of like communal gaming. Like
Yeah.
Like
That's
I had like a PC with some games, but I think Myst, we'd play Myst,
oh
but
cool.
like yeah. But mostly like LAN parties.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really fun, and obviously the advent of the internet has really given us a chance to like expand that further. But uh, as someone who only got a taste of what LAN parties really were growing up, I still have like a heavy hunger and nostalgia for that.
Yeah. I think we should bring them back. I mean, there's no reason not to. They're still like there's still so much fun. You get a bunch
Yes.
of nerds together playing the video game, like, and you're like in the same room together
Oh,
playing it, and you're not doing split screen. It's
yeah.
great.
You can't put a price on that, Garrett. It was too good.
No, no.
I was I got to sort of kind of experience a version of this recently.
Yeah.
I had my birthday a few weeks ago,
Happy
and
birthday.
thank you very much. It's actually the whole reason I brought that up was to get the compliment.
Yep.
We don't really call that a compliment. It's more of like a well wish, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't need to dissect that any more than I already am. But me and a friend were able to rig up two Xbox 360s with a cable to play 8-player Halo 1, which
Oh, cool.
while it's not, all on our own PCs turning over and looking at each other, it did recreate a semblance of that experience. Like hearing, like I was playing in this room, hearing the people in the other room play and go like, oh, when you'd like kill them was so satisfying and like just brought back so many memories. It was amazing. So, but that being said, I would any chance to do something like that, Garrett. If you need a partner in crime, like just I'm ready to suit up.
Okay, cool. I need to. My PC is broken, so I need to like So I need to upgrade that, and once I do, let's get together.
I would love
throw
that.
a LAN party. Yeah.
Hey, twist my arm. I also I was remembering I meant to say that Artoon recently was telling me that him and his friend will occasionally get together and one of them will bring their PC to their friend's house, which I'm like I can't imagine moving my PC, but power to people who do it.
We used to do it all the time, but like nowadays I think PCs have kind of like taken over more. Like, my old one was like also how we watched TV for a while. It was plugged into the TV, and there was just so much more integrated into everything now.
Absolutely. Even just thinking about I was lucky enough to have a PC from when I was 13 and until I basically left for college, and it was a much smaller, even though it was a tower, it was a much smaller machine than this big thing that I've got next to me now. So, I've gotten us to stray just a bit off topic, but this is all really good stuff. So it sounds like that's what you were doing a lot in high school. You said was communal gaming.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think I definitely played some Super Nintendo. I mean, I was big. I loved the Final Fantasies.
Oh,
the
do you
early
have a favorite?
I'm trying to remember what some of them were. I think the last one I played was 7.
Oh, nice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I loved it, if I'm remembering correctly.
Was that with our boy Cloud here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
luckily, if any game you name, I do have a visual aid for right here.
Dragon Quest. Played a lot of Dragon Quest.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
The Dragon Quest chapstick?
Yeah, yes, exactly. I'm sure there's a B in Dragon Quest somewhere.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And plenty of Zelda, like the early Zeldas,
nice.
The top down. Like the Final Fantasy 2 was a big one for me.
Oh man, so good.
Yeah, great game. SimCities were big for me.
Hence, I heard you recently, not to jump too far ahead, but I heard you at the time of this recording today on Video Games a Comedy Show talking about your love for City Skylines.
Yeah, that's my now game.
Yes.
Yeah, I play that a lot. I've got over 1,000 hours in that game, and
incredible. I loved hearing you and Scott talk about that, particularly because Scott, a little over 2 years ago, on his personal episode of this podcast, discussed City Skylines.
That's great.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was so jealous because I was like, oh, that's the one I would want to do.
Oh, dang. And, I mean, we were talking about the episode count on this podcast earlier, and it is tough it's tougher by every episode to find, like,
I'm sure,
a game not discussed. I hope I communicated this, but sometimes people offer up a game, and so I don't need to, but we've repeated games before because they mean different things to different people, so it's always possible.
Yeah. But yeah, those are like, up until college, like when I went to college, I only brought my PC, and you know, like the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo were all. I just remember, like, another friend, you know, growing up in Portland, a lot of friends' dads worked at Intel, and another friend, his dad worked at Intel, and what was that game? There was like, he also had like a bunch of computers all lined up automatically, and so we'd play a bunch of games in his basement. He also had a Dreamcast.
Oh, sick.
Because he was like, you know, bucking every trend. He was like, no, Dreamcast is the way, you know. So we'd play a lot of Dreamcast on his, like, he had a couch that took up the whole room.
Okay,
like, it was a normal sized room, extra large couch. And we'd play Dreamcast on there, and then downstairs there was like some tactical, like, medieval war game that we play. That was very fun, and like you know, it was like the early, like it wasn't this, but we also played a lot of, you know, the original Warcraft.
Nice.
That was one that we played a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of when you were naming that, like, not necessarily an Age of Empires, but like something like that is what you're referring to.
Yeah. It was like, because he had a Dreamcast, he always loved like the games that nobody else was talking about, and so it was like one that hasn't really, you know, kept up. You know, nobody knows of it anymore. I can't remember it, but yeah, that original Warcraft we played a ton.
That's awesome.
So
you had like, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I would always lose. I would always want to play, and I'd always lose.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say?
I was just, you know, and this isn't like a rare thing, but it's when someone brings on a game, it's sometimes people only play like that style or a few other genres. So, but it sounds like you have a very like a background of gaming that is filled with variety.
Yeah, nice. I think so. Like these days, I mostly stick to Cities Skylines.
Yes,
like Civilization, or so like sim games.
Oh yeah.
But I still will play, like, you know, over like the quarantine, I played Fallout 4 nonstop.
Ooh, very nice.
But I focused on just building my encampment.
That's awesome.
That was my obsession, was just building cool encampments.
Yeah. I unfortunately have not played 4, or in fact, the only Fallout game I've even dabbled with is 3. Because it's on, like a lot of those games are on Game Pass, and so this time last year I played, I think, 24 hours or so, like, of 3, and I loved it. And I know that people had some criticism for, I mean, every game has criticism, but for the 4th installment, but I'm still like, could see myself getting into it at some point.
From what I've read, is like the 4th one is where they introduced kind of like the encampment building aspects that I love so much. And then it, like, later ones have it too, but that's what like really made it different.
Yes.
You know, it's like those games like Half-Life. The first Half-Life was like a moment in time, like that moment where you realize that what you were trying to get to the security forces to help you.
Yes.
And you see them kill another,
like a
scientist.
Yeah.
That was like a moment in gaming where I was like, oh, this is more than just a game.
Yes.
Like Fallout 4 was also like, I don't know, for me, like a moment where like, oh, there's more to this first person shooter than like.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I mean, we could go over your whole history with gaming with a fine-tooth comb, but with the goal of getting us to the main topic at a certain point, I just have a couple questions that I want to ask you about your history, just to last few. The first of which is, if you look back on your history of gaming, whether it's a console or a particular computer you had, do you have one, like a system that you're most nostalgic for?
Man, probably Game Boy. Like that first Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, like my Pentium 486, was very good to me. My Super Nintendo was very good to me, but my Game Boy was mine.
Yes.
And I still have the bag that I kept it in. And that's my toiletry bag when I travel now.
That, you couldn't have said anything to more ingrain you in my heart, Garrett. That it's the most Connor thing I've ever heard.
I'm glad I can have a little Connor in my life.
It's important. At least I think so.
I agree.
So you had so much nostalgia for it that even like in little ways like that, you can still remember it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was just like mine, and like I got to play it whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't have to share it. And the games, I played a lot. Like, I played Tetris on that so much that I would see cars driving down the hill as Tetris pieces.
Yes.
It was just one day that happened. It was weird. It was a weird experience. But
there is something, especially a game like that, where you do it so much that you could like close your eyes and you're not even thinking about the game, but you see pieces. Do you have a Nintendo Switch?
No, I need to get one.
So only if you want to, but if you do get a Switch with the basic online service, which is like $20 a year, but honestly, the one above that is pretty worth it. For this basic online service, it comes with a game called Tetris 99, which Jeremy, I don't know if you mentioned it on your episode, but
he did, yeah.
Do you know this game where it's essentially a battle royale Tetris game?
Yeah, vaguely. I think I've seen it here and there. Yeah.
Nothing really changes about the gameplay. You're essentially, the lines you're clearing, you're sending that to other players, and it's filling the bottom of their screen. Yes. And so it's just another version of Tetris that, like, it's my personal favorite one, and I say that just because I've probably put in like 100 hours into it over the years. But if you're a Tetris boy, like at some point, I hope you get the chance to dig into that.
I feel like I've played something like a head-to-head Tetris where you send lines. I've played that online, on my computer before. Yeah.
It's very cool.
It's fun. Yeah.
So that Game Boy is probably your most nostalgic console. The last question I have for you is there a game that you haven't mentioned yet that you would just be so disappointed that you didn't get a shout out on your episode from your history?
Let me think about that. That's a good question. There
are just so many out there.
I know there's so many. There was one that I was addicted to for a while. I think it was called Merchant of Venice, where you buy like city councilmen, like the Doges of Venice, and kind of like, was that? Yeah, and the other one I might talk about when I talk about Unreal Tournament, because it was part of it.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, but
kind of tied together.
Yeah, it's a little tied together. Like, trying to think if there's any others. I can picture some games, but I can't remember the names. Just like those top-down like JRPGs.
Yes,
those were like my thing for so long. Like all of those.
Oh,
yeah,
such good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Garrett, I someday I'm gonna ask you even more about this topic, because there's a whole chunk of your history we probably didn't even touch. But thank you for talking with me, about your general history. Yeah, of course. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about all things Unreal Tournament, so I'll see you on the other side.
See you on the other side.
Welcome back to Call Me by Your Game. I, Connor McCabe, have not gone anywhere. I'm still here hosting this episode with the great Garrett Palm.
I did go somewhere for a second, but I'm back.
Huge. Just a little tease of a possible departure, but here we are reunited. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Garrett, before we're gonna get into finally discussing Unreal Tournament, the game you've brought on for today's main event.
Yes.
And as I said before the episode, I'm gonna do a little table setting. Genuinely reading a little Wikipedia summary of what this game is. Cool. But if you want to jump in at any point, if you're like, ooh, this is important context to add before we dive into your personal history, you got the green light, pal, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But without further ado, here we are. Unreal Tournament is a first-person arena shooter game developed by Epic Games and Digital Extremes. The second installment in the Unreal series was first published by GT Interactive in 1999 for Windows and later released on the PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast by Infogrames from 2000 and 2001. I remember, this is a total aside, but I knew of the company Infogrames. Gosh, it's always been hard to say because I played the Backyard Sports series. I don't know if you know Backyard Baseball and all that.
I know you. I know of it only through you.
Probably because I posted about it a bunch.
Yeah.
But they started I think distributing some of the later games, and I always remember being annoyed by the name because it was confusing. Adding that R, just to call it Infogames.
Yeah.
So that's weird. My personal business. I don't need to bring in here anymore. But they released that in 2000 and 2001 for those two systems. So maybe your Dreamcast friend had it there.
Probably.
Players compete in this game in a series of matches of various types with a general aim of out-killing opponents. In a classic first-person shooter goal there. The PC and Dreamcast versions support multiplayer online or over a local area network. Free expansion packs were released, some of which were bundled with a 2000 re-release called Unreal Tournament Game of the Year Edition, powered by the Unreal Engine, if you've ever heard of it. Unreal Tournament received universal acclaim, often being considered one of the greatest games ever made, with reviewers praising the graphics, level design, and gameplay. Though the console ports were, like many first-person shooters of the era, were noted for having their own limitations. The design of the game shifted the series' focus to competitive multiplayer action with the releases of the sequels Unreal Tournament 2003, Unreal Tournament 2004, and Unreal Tournament 3. The naming conventions, I can't tell you what they were thinking. And then in 2014, a pre-alpha version of a new game in the series was released titled simply Unreal Tournament. But unfortunately, the game never got its full release because in 2017, Epic canceled the game. Garrett, when it comes to just history and context of what we were just going over, is there anything that we should include before we dive into your personal history with the game?
Not too much. I mean, around that time, I think the only other thing maybe is it came out just before Quake 3, which was another game.
Yes, that's right.
My friends and I loved, but and I think for a lot of people, Quake 3 kind of took away a lot of Unreal Tournament's shine, just because maybe, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people jumped onto Quake 3, but a lot of people were still playing Unreal Tournament too,
sure,
as well. And it's just crazy that the Unreal Engine is such a big thing now.
Yes,
that's the other thing that's the thing that blows my mind for this is that
looking at the Unreal Engine, the fact that it was like I think, did I say developed by Epic Games? Yes, developed by Epic Games, which is such a huge, not only like production company, but like just distributor of games. I mean, they have their own
Yeah.
store, obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean, Fortnite is like the biggest thing in gaming, so yeah,
And like
some pretty interesting threads of history with this one.
like a lot of my favorite TV shows are run on the Unreal like engine.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's what. So like you go to the well, they have like a lot of the what's it called? The spaces, the vacuum. What are they called? We like the Mandalorian was shot on
Yes.
this. A lot of those, it's like using the Unreal Engine for the graphics.
Oh my gosh. I've seen like not videos, but like pictures of these stages where they've got all this set up, and it's I mean, gosh, I was about to say it's unreal. I am so sorry. It's impressive is what I'll say.
I can't talk too much about it, but I got to go to one. They were shooting a show that's coming out. And I got to go to the volume.
That's amazing.
And it was incredible. Just I stood in the middle of this and looked around this dome that was being run by the Unreal Engine, and I felt like I was in a completely different world. Like it was fully immersive. And so like seeing the actors act on it, it was incredible. It was it was like something that I'm very excited and lucky that I got to see. It was cool.
Very cool stuff. Amazing. Well, history and context aside, let's get into your history with this game. How did you come about getting it? Was this something that you were looking forward to? Did it just pop up?
I think it just popped up. I think like I don't think I paid for this game.
Nice.
Well, it was the early days of the internet, and it was easy to get some of these games for free if you knew where to look. And I think I've just kind of like I downloaded it onto my computer at one point, and so it was my sophomore year of college.
Yes.
And I was supposed to have a single in my dorm, and like I can't remember how that happened, but then I showed up and I had a roommate, and it was like
kind of a big
transfer.
Surprise.
Yeah, it was a big surprise. They didn't tell me until I like showed up. Well, they probably told me, I don't remember, but he was like a new transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh boy, what's this gonna be? And he became like a close, one of my best friends.
Oh, great.
But one of the things is like we didn't, we bonded over this game along with this other game, Tribes 2, I think. Oh no, I was playing Tribes 2 the year before, which that was one of the other games I wanted to talk about, just because it was like the first game I remember where it was a first-person shooter that you could then get into vehicles.
Oh, interesting.
And there may have been other games before that, but like, having somebody drive while you're manning the gun, that was like one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah, that's a really fun gameplay element, especially when it was new. It was like novel.
Yeah. And then Quake 3. But so we basically we found out like we both loved video games. We both had like PCs that could handle like we both like built our own PCs at that time.
Nice.
And we set our dorm room up so that our computers were facing each other, so we could play against each other without seeing what the other person was doing. And our room was kind of too small, so the only way you could get to my computer was to climb over one of our beds. So like it was not like a good setup, but like we did it just to be able to play these games like head to head and like have like, and I think we did a few other things that kind of make it feel like a like a fort, you know, like a pillow fort. We were the coolest kids at on campus.
You're just like honoring your like 10-year-old self by making it as perfect for that age Garrett as possible.
Yeah.
That's fun. I mean, I've gone through like strange lengths to like for gaming purposes as well for like something I mean, that at least you probably had set up. Did you have it set up the whole year basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We the school, we change rooms every quarter.
Every quarter?
Yeah. So it was a bit exhausting, but so
that
this was only
so
set
unnecessary
up for this
to
one quarter.
me.
I know. Yeah. I wonder if they still do that. I don't know, but
yeah.
But yeah, it was. So we only had it for this quarter.
Okay, gotcha.
But that was like 2.5 months or something.
Yeah. Nice chunk of time. Where did you go to school? Did you say New York somewhere?
No, St. Louis area, Principia College. I think we've talked about this because you're a Cardinals fan, right?
Yes. And I think this is just one of those things that I forgot about. You said it's Principia?
Yep. Tiny school, 500 students.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, my mom's family is all from, I tell people St. Louis, but for someone who lived there, I can tell you she's from Alton, Illinois, which is just across the river.
That's where the school was. It was in Elsa, Illinois.
I've forgotten every detail of this.
I know. No, I used to go to, like, Alton was where we'd go. We'd go to the Jerseyville Walmart late at night.
Yes.
Alton, the Riverboat Casino. I almost got a job there.
No way. Have you ever been to Fast Eddie's?
Oh, maybe. I'm trying to remember.
It's a place right on the riverfront as well. That's sort of just like a big open divey, like sloppy food. Like it's like hot dogs, chili dogs, burgers, and then they have the cheapest, coldest beer as well.
Okay, no, I don't think so.
Big like sports watching place too.
Okay.
That's amazing. I've probably mentioned it as well, but my mom went to SIU Edwardsville.
I worked as a dishwasher there for a quarter after I graduated college.
I can't wait I'm gonna hop on the phone with her later just because of this to tell her, and she's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool."
Yeah, I enjoyed working as a dishwasher there. It was a fun place. I don't know. It was fun. It was cool. It was an experience.
Yes. That's absolutely fantastic. So that's where you were when you were doing this.
Middle of nowhere. We were like outside of Alton, Illinois.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So let's get into the game a little bit and like what you remember about playing it. Like, are there certain aspects that stick out to you to this day?
I do have real quick.
Please.
There's one story about this room setup.
Oh, by all means,
if I may. So, we had this room set up to play this game, and the only way we could do it was to crawl over my bed to get to my computer. And this was like early days of LimeWire. I think it was LimeWire.
Mm-hmm.
And where people would have their own kind of like folders on the internet that you could download stuff from.
Yeah.
And there was something where I had updated my LimeWire and I'd found somebody else's and I was downloading some stuff, and they had an older version of LimeWire and their firewall was triggered in a way that it said that I was hacking.
Oh.
And so
like trying to get into their stuff. Interesting.
And so that person called my college. And so I had to so the dean of students and like the technology lead and like somebody else had to come into my room and get to my computer so I could show them I wasn't hacking. So I had like these three important like school officials, and I was like, so we kind of built this like a fortress, kind of like a little fort, and Yeah, you get to my computer, you have to climb over my bed. So,
if you really want to find out if I'm hacking,
yeah, yeah, it was very embarrassing. But
did they climb over your bed, or did you like shift things around?
You know, they climbed over my bed to get to my computer.
That's so funny.
It was very embarrassing.
And
but
exonerated.
Okay, yes, yeah. They always like see LimeWire and nobody really knew what LimeWire was at the time, and then the guy figured it out and he was like, okay, no, he's cool.
Yeah, he's just downloading music illegally. Yeah. He's not hacking into someone's. He's not breaching someone's private security. That's so funny.
Exactly. So the game, the game I remember I loved. I in these games, I without fail always play a sniper. I love sniping.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I just love camping out. I'm the worst. I love to camp out and
There's something fun about cloaking your area or where you are, sort of sinking into it and in a long distance mode taking out fellow players. When we had that Halo LAN party I was telling you about, I forgot what a sniper head I was, and instincts were just kicking in where I was like, I'm getting the sniper from this Blood Gulch base, I'm going through the teleporter, and then I'm going up above their base or somewhere else and just So you're in a safe space to talk about sniping in video games.
Okay, thank you. Because not a lot of people like them.
Don't get me started. Hypocrites.
I'm sure you've encountered. There's the map where it's the two towers facing each other with a big bridge in between.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved capture the flag on that one. I just love playing defense for the most part, and I would just teleport up to the top.
Yeah.
And just just snipe those fools trying to run across and get the flag.
Yes.
Usually would play against bots or play against my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in other versions, there was a version, what was it, where you had to it was one team was attacking, one team was defending, I think.
Interesting,
if I remember correctly. I really enjoyed that one as well, playing defense on that.
Yeah, let me pull this up because I've got the article. It listed a bunch of gameplay modes in here.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously. So you had mentioned capture the flag. There was assault.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what it was. It says here one team assaulting the base and the other defending it. Okay.
I really like that kind of style of I enjoyed assaulting as well, assaulting or defending, either way, but it's where I don't know what it is. It's something where it's more it's not a free for all, which can be fun, but it is a bit more strategic. And I think one of the things that I think Unreal had this where you could tell your bots different jobs.
Oh, cool.
Kind of assign them all things to do at the start. And I really enjoyed my friend and I think what we would do is Nathaniel would be assaulting, I'd be defending, and I just assign my bots all the different jobs, and then I give myself the sniper position and just start sniping away.
That's getting into your, you as someone who likes sim games and strategy stuff, an element of that, but in a first-person shooter that I wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, that's true. It was an early version of adding that kind of deeper strategy to a first-person shooter, which I was, again, I think I said this already, but I lost constantly.
Yeah.
I was not good at this.
Yeah.
I'm still not good at strategy games, but I love playing them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't know.
That's
I
fun.
love playing pretend. Yeah.
Hey, well, you know what? That's something I think I could have guessed about you.
That I lose a lot?
Here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that you're a loser. No, the pretend make 'em up is part of it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I mean, I think you've already iterated. I mean, you've explained this already, but you said it was either playing with bots and or with your roommate. Did you two have online capabilities from the setup? Slash, did you ever use that?
I I don't. I mean, I'm sure we did, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it was that great out in the middle of
Yes.
nowhere outside of Alton,
Yeah.
Illinois. So like it was there, but I don't think I think we mostly played head to head. And like
Yes.
sometimes, we'd if we couldn't play, we'd let a friend use our computer to play against
Nice.
the other person. And but yeah, I think we mostly played head to head, just the
Yeah.
two of us and with our bot army of bots.
Okay, cool. I got some questions about this then.
Yeah.
This actually is helping me sort of like specify what I want to ask. You said you were like big into sniping. Do you remember what your roommate's strategy was? Like what he leaned on?
Oh, I don't.
That's all good.
No, that is a great question. If I was better at strategy, I probably would have remembered
His
because
strategy was killing me.
yeah, I know. Yeah, like I feel like a good strategist would know their enemy very well and
Yeah.
have that ingrained.
It's also been a few years, so we'll give you
Yeah,
some slack or cut
yeah,
you some slack.
it's been a few decades.
Yes. That's still interesting stuff.
Mhm.
Do you have any like uh broad or specific memories playing with your friend? Like do you remember, was there like a one specific moment that stood out, or anything more general that you remember about the activity?
I mean, just staying up late to
Yeah.
do it, that was the main thing. Just like, yeah, staying up late, like almost every night. I did a
Mhm.
lot of theater, so
Yeah.
it'd be like in rehearsals a lot, and then would come back and play.
Yes.
That was, the time to then play. Um,
It's hard to like just turn off your brain
yeah,
like that. I think some of that for me has like seeped into my life where I'll get home from Herald night,
yeah,
and as much as I should just start to wind down or whatever, and I don't even stay out late most of the time, I'll still want like several hours to myself to like decompress.
yeah,
So maybe there's something there with you also being a
yeah,
performer.
yeah. And yeah, I think like it was also just like the time that was ours.
Yes.
Like it's like so much of the day you have to do stuff. You have to do a show. You have to do these things that you are, you have to do, and
Yes.
then late at night everybody's asleep. Nobody can tell you what to do, so
Yeah. It's that
you go
freedom
head to
of
head.
like, yeah, truly being able to do what you want with your own time for a lot of people the first time going to college.
Yeah, yeah.
Were you a theater major then?
I was, yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Well, I was like, I think at that point, I was still, kind of, what's the word? Like telling my parents that I would consider computer science, like they were
Yes.
asking. I was taking some computer science classes, and I was
Yes.
also thinking about double majoring in econ. I was taking a bunch of
Mhm.
econ classes.
Classic like art kid going to college,
Yeah.
and like I had a similar I ended up just having similar conversations with my parents, so I can relate.
hmm
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know. I did the computer science, like, that I'd turn off the game and do my homework,
Mhm.
and the classes for computer science were at like 8 a.m. So I
Oh
never
my
made it.
gosh. Yeah.
I only made it to like the midterm and finals tests because I
Mhm.
slept in the class.
Yeah.
Like I slept in the classroom the night before.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So like I like
You're like, I'm
'cause
not missing this. This is the
yeah,
only way I can guarantee I'm going to be there.
yeah. I would like
Do you?
go
Okay,
in
I
the
want
night
to ask you
before
about
and sleep
this.
on one of the tables.
Did that require any
What?
like
Yeah,
stealth operation, or could you just like wander in there?
you could just wander in there.
Okay.
This was this was 1999, 2000,
Mm-hmm.
and middle of nowhere, Illinois, Southern Illinois,
Yes.
in a school of 500 students, all the classrooms were unlocked.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That is just such a great little little nugget there. That's so funny.
Yeah. I'd go there like late at night after playing, some video games and just, pass out on one of the tables.
This is more of a tangent, but do you do any do you have any of those computer science skills that you still use at all? Like, do you program? Do you anything like that?
No, I wish I did. I do wish, I do want to get back into that stuff
Yeah.
now. But, and I was good. I was decent. Like in high school, I made a video game on my TI-85
No
that
way.
everybody played.
What was it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was called or
I
what
don't
it was
remember
like?
the name, but it was a gladiator style fighting game.
Like a one-on-one.
No, I think it was it was sorry, one-on-one, yes. Against the computer. But it was you kind of worked your way up in the gladiator fights, and you would buy new equipment, you'd gain new skills, and
Amazing.
my friends and I were all playing it. I was always working on it, making it better, and sending out the new version through everybody's TI-85s.
That's so cool.
So I was like, I should have done computer science and done all this stuff, but
Hey, well, you know what? You went on the path that led you here
Yes,
and
exactly.
being friends with me. So I think there's probably no real regrets.
No.
Yeah.
not at all. Like a high-paying computer science job or this.
Who
Take
needs it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Or a career in entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm surprised doesn't come up more often on the podcast, but just living with your choices and there's many things that I'm constantly looking at that in my life of I wish I would have done this, or dang, what if I would have stuck with that, or what if I wouldn't have left this job, or what if I would have said more to stuff. So I don't need to tell you to give you a lesson in it because you understand it, but it's still an interesting thing to grapple with that I'll still battle occasionally.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of sliding doors moment is just constant. I think about that with a lot of my choices in life.
Yeah.
But do you get a lot of people on here that have ever made a game or wish that they had gone into or are trying to get into game making, writing?
I not to toot my own horn, Garrett, but you're looking at one right now, and he's me.
Which one of the
So
have you made?
this year have gotten into I had become really interested in making games, but more specifically the narrative writing of games, because that's actually a skill I have, and I can translate that, as opposed to I have no programming skills. And so I can't just suddenly become a computer programmer for games.
Yeah.
Anyway, I became really interested, and I have we've actually had, a handful of people who've been on this podcast who work in video games,
Cool.
in different aspects. I'm sure or at least have heard of Heather Woodward. Heather writes
right.
for Apex Legends.
That's cool.
So she's on the writing stuff over there. My friend Alec Robbins is the head writer at Squanch Games.
That's right.
Yes. Do you know Alec at all?
I know the name.
Yes.
Jeremy was talking about Alec just
Of
this
course.
morning. I was talking with Jeremy.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, he
Yes.
Alec is a writer. I mean, I have plenty of friends who work in games. But anyway, I started taking a narrative class online because Heather had recommended taking one.
I've seen those, and I've been like, should I take one of these classes?
Dude, I highly recommend at least dipping your toe in if you're interested in.
Please send me this class info.
I will. So basically, I'll try to summarize this quickly. Heather recommended I take a UCLA extension course with an instructor she had. which I'm currently in and finishing up in the fall. That's an in-person class, but it's actually been kind of fun to be in person. We've been talking about college all podcast. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's funny being in a college setting again. But before that, I had started taking one online, which I had gotten on like a crate. It was, I think I paid $15 for this heavily discounted class. But I'll send you links to those things.
Yeah, please.
But in our class, I've made like one sort of like text adventure hyperlink game, which nowadays they have like really programs that are just built to help you do that. You really are doing almost no coding. Yeah. I made a vertical slice of like a sort of visual novel for class. But then me and some friends made a game in a game jam. It's
cool.
basically like a 48-hour film festival. It's called Farewell Fava. I can send it to you because
please.
It's basically done. We've just kind of been waiting on a couple of additional art assets from our artist, but we're actually showing it off at the time of recording this Saturday at the like indie organization that we participate with. They're called Glitch City. So truly, even after the pod, if you have any questions or want to hear more about it, like I can always point you in that direction. Never thought I'd be doing it, but here I am.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, I think it was a symptom of me just being like, I want and need something to stick out here, and maybe this could be an avenue.
Yeah,
you know.
Somebody else that works that has written for some games.
Who's this?
My partner Rachel.
What? I didn't know this.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I don't know if how much I can talk about one of the games she she was writing on, but she also works for Story Loom.
Oh,
which is
yes.
what that made me realize, like, that is a game.
Yes.
You were talking about, like, it's like a choose your own adventure novel, visual novel kind of thing.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
she writes for that, but she's also worked on another game in the past.
Very exciting. I should share what I've done with Rachel. I had no idea. That's really cool. I mean, it's just it's really cool that so many of our storytelling skills can translate to it. Yeah. I've gotten us way off topic.
I think this is fascinating.
Well, I'm glad, and thank you. I'll get us back to our subject, and because I don't have much more I need to ask you. I normally even have my guests scene paint where they would have played this game, but you've already like described your whole room for me. And you've taken us down memory lane, not only for about the game itself, but like the memories of when you played it and the things that filled out the context of your life. So before we wrap up, is there anything else about this game or the context that you haven't mentioned today that you were hoping to?
I guess, like, in general, I don't like first-person shooters.
Yeah.
I didn't think I did. I didn't consider myself a first-person shooter guy. Like, I'm not a COD man or whatever. Yeah. I don't live that COD life.
Yeah, me neither,
like
man.
Nick Costanza, I've like played maybe a couple of times.
Yeah.
But
the COD King, Nick Costanza.
The COD King, yeah. But I did grow up on like Doom, Quake, and Unreal. But I think part of it was like, that's, it was like new. It was like a new thing, and there was like so much. I don't know. It was just like this fun new thing.
Totally.
That then like really Half-Life brought it back for me for a second. And then it wasn't until Fallout 4 that I started playing them again. Yeah. Like I've tried playing Borderlands, like kind of got bored pretty quick. And but for some reason, like these early days of them where they are not as like, I was watching gameplay of this and I'm like, this is exactly what I remember. And it's just like, so you're just like moving like,
yes,
just like very limited in what you can do. But it was so fun. Like also with like the original, like the 007 GoldenEye, like that kind of every now and then I'll play it, and it's like it's just so simple. There's not much you can do, but like there's a joy in that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes I think about that. I don't know if it's just like nostalgia or what, but I can still find that like sort of like warm feeling from something old like this. There's something too about, like, I also wouldn't consider myself a first person shooter like lover, but looking back, there have been plenty that have impacted me or that like I've really enjoyed. So I can relate to you on that.
Yeah.
Big time. The last question I have for you, which is just basically to help us wrap up, is can you put a bow on whatever place Unreal Tournament held for you, whether broad or specific?
Yeah, I think it really, I'm thinking right now, so I'm going to talk through this, I guess, but like, it kind of like that community, that like group gaming, kind of like, it was a game you didn't really play by yourself. And I've kind of lost that, like I really want that back. I love like group gaming like that, and like, the LAN parties. And I think this really was like the last game that I play, like aside from like bouts of Mario Party or like DDR or whatever, like here and there, but this was like the last game that was really like that I played all the time with friends.
Yes.
And I miss that, like this friend. Rachel and I had an Overcooked stretch over quarantine.
What a challenge.
That kind of like brought that back.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like I want to return to this like group gaming. It's just so much more fun to be playing with your friends. And like, like Among Us was fun, but it was fun when I was playing with my friends as opposed to, just a bunch of like 10-year-olds that I didn't know.
Yes.
And, like, I want more of that. That was like the last of that up until, I guess, pandemic with Overcooked and Among Us.
Yeah. There's just so much about what you shared that I can absolutely resonate with too. And as someone who does a lot, I mean, the majority of my gaming is like single player solo games, which I love, but I also still have such a soft spot in my heart for like sharing a game, even if it's not one that I think is amazing. Just a game to sort of foster that environment of community, as you said. It's just so, it's why I set up that Halo LAN party. So I can relate with you, and it's just special stuff. Well, Garrett, we're not quite wrapped with the episode, but thank you so much for bringing on Unreal Tournament and sharing about your time with it. That was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. I had a blast, and like you said, it like brought up a lot of old memories, which was very cool.
It's such good stuff. Well, before we go, I'll go ahead and just lead us into our post-show segments. And so the first of which, of course, is the Fact Me by Your Game segment. And this is just where I share a fun fact about the game that my guest brought on with them. And I'll apologize to you deeply, Garrett. I normally have at least two of these fun facts. And for a game that has such like a rich history, it was really hard to find anything to like latch on to. In this day that I prepared for the podcast. But I do have one for us today. And this comes from an very old archived article, on Gama Sutra by the author Brandon Reinhardt. But I have this titled "Growing Dev Team," which is it's a simplification of what happened. But anyway, the development team for Unreal Tournament consisted of around 16 people. Most team members had worked on Unreal, which came out the year before. Though Epic hired a number of new developers to help reinforce the team. Programmer Brandon Reinhardt, who, yes, also wrote this article, was one of these hires, joining Epic in August 1998 to help with the support of the first game and the development of Unreal Tournament. And in December 1998, Reinhardt discovered an Unreal mod called U-Browser, which provided a new user interface for finding multiplayer matches. Now, after showing it to James Schmalz, the lead designer at Digital Extremes, Schmalz decided to hire the mod's author, Jack Porter. And so only a few weeks later, Porter was working with the team and helped replace the game's existing menu system with his new UI. I found that interesting for a few reasons. One is that even though it's not something we really heard about from you, like many PC games, but this game specifically, and City Skylines, which you talked about.
Yeah.
There is such a huge and passionate mod community like for this game, and I just thought it was really interesting that they recognized the skill and work of someone and even brought them on the team, which feels kind of unheard of.
Yeah, I wonder if that was like one of the first instances of that happening.
It's a great question.
City Skylines 2 did that, but that's like now.
Yeah,
that's like now. That like just came out.
Totally.
But yeah, I wonder if like this was the first time like somebody, like I wonder like how many games were modded before that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and which I wish I had an answer to, but kind of interesting stuff there. Again, just have the one fact today, so that's
I've got one.
Oh, my friend, please share.
This is from some, kind of reminding myself. I was like trying to remember the levels, and I was like, there was the one that I loved playing, the two buildings facing each other with the bridge, and I found a YouTube video where they talked about. Like they touched on how that level got made, and it's like the most popular level from that game. It's like the level that like people think of when they think of this game. And I guess there was some of the facts, some of the details I may get wrong.
Yes,
prefaced with that, but they had like something like a total of 160 polygons that they could use to build each level, and a lot of it was used on landscape. So the designer of this level was like, what if I made one with no landscape?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's floating in space.
Oh.
And why there's like, it's just like an open area between the two, and why there's no staircases in the buildings, why you just like teleport from level to level.
Yes.
So it was really like, it's... I don't know. I like a lot of Russian literature, and a lot of Russian literature is the way it is because they had to sneak stuff past like the censors.
Yes.
And like, so these limitations can often result in like these cool things that get made. So like
a triumph or like an innovation or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think there's some quote out there that's been overused, which is like, limitation breeds innovation or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But that's really cool. Thank you.
I'm
for
not
sharing
saying we
that
go
as well.
back to like censorship or anything, but like, these limitations still can. Yeah.
Heard you loud and clear. Garrett is for censorship. Let that be the lesson after today's episode.
I'm glad you could read between the lines.
Yes, that's my job here as podcast host. Well, hey, you helped me combine to make 2 fun facts for the Fact Me by Your Game segment, so thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and lead us into the final segment on the podcast, the game recommendations. Now, Garrett, this segment is my one forced tie-in to the movie Call Me by Your Name, where I am going to treat Unreal Tournament as your passionate summer fling that you had in Italy that unfortunately is not going to last forever. So in order to help you get over the heartbreak of losing this relationship, I'm going to present you with 3 potential new flings that all have something in common with Unreal Tournament.
Okay.
I find that familiarity when, looking for a new partner goes a long way. So here we go. I've got 3 for you today, as I said.
Okay.
And this first game, I'll just say you actually brought up a couple times on this episode. I was going to offer up another classic first-person shooter, but with more of a single-player focus instead of the multiplayer, and that's Half-Life.
Yes.
We brought it up plenty of times today. Yeah. Speaking of mod communities, like that community is crazy. I played this for the first time this year, actually with someone who's been listening to this episode live, my friend Garrett, another Garrett Morlang, and I.
Hi, Garrett.
we covered this on an episode of our that goes on our Patreon. But yeah, I had never played it.
Really?
Just missed out
I mean,
totally. You've played this one?
yeah, because it came out around that same kind of like era of like gaming when I was PC gaming pretty regularly. And yeah, that how did it hit for you when it turns out the security staff is killing the scientists too?
Oh, it was I was really surprised. Like the narrative, the way that the narrative was built, period, for the game is really impressive, especially for the time, on how so much of it is environmental storytelling, but there are more overt moments like that are literally showing you what's happening. But it was so good. And while, like you could probably guess, this first-person shooter from 1998 has some thorns gameplay-wise, which we talk about on the episode, I still had a fantastic time, and I'm going to play the second one next year.
Cool. I haven't played this. I've played a little bit of the second one. I haven't played much of it yet.
Yeah, I'd like to. So
do that. Yeah,
I'm getting that gang back together who did the Half-Life 1 episode, and we're gonna do that next year for the Patreon as well. So
cool.
But anyway, that's your first recommendation.
Okay.
Half-Life.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The second recommendation is if you love the aesthetic of this game, and I'm talking like the sci-fi stuff, the specific way that like the environments and 3D models were crafted for this era of gaming. But you'd like to slow it down because you're actually a big fan of RPGs, which turns out you do like an RPG, as I learned today.
Yeah.
I recommend a game called Anachronox. Have you ever heard of Anachronox?
I've never heard of this.
Let me drop this is just the Wikipedia article, but I've got it copied here just in case. This is, it actually might even be more, it's like a cyberpunk JRPG, actually. That was a PC game from the same era. Let me go ahead and open up the chat for us. Anyway, really great game that I don't know if you know Nick Park, but Nick came on the show last year to talk about this game. But so I didn't know you were a fan of RPGs, and here I am learning that. So I feel even better about this rec.
You could sense it from me.
Just as I was preparing for the episode, I knew. So Anachronox is your second recommendation. And your final one, Garrett.
Yes.
If, instead of something unreal, you want the realest thing imaginable.
Okay.
Something close to your actual reality, well, I'll recommend a game called Second Life, which is just a regular life simulator. Have you heard of this classic, like, sort of MMO game?
Yes, I have. I've never played it.
Me neither. I truly first ever heard about it on The Office because I think Dwight gets sucked into it.
Yeah.
If you want something that's just more grounded, even though I'm sure there's wild things about it today. Second Life is your final recommendation.
I was curious about Second Life when it first came out. I haven't heard anything about it since then, but
it still is going. It's out there. I mean, I can't say I have like an interest in trying it, but I would love to like see what it's like today.
Yeah.
With that being said, I'll go ahead and recap your three recommendations today. We have the original Half-Life, Anachronox, and Second Life. A lot of life in these titles. That'll do it for the game recommendations. Then I'll actually bring us to the end of the show. So, Garrett, before we go and plug whatever we'd like, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Of course. Glad to finally get you on. I've quite literally had you on a Google Sheet for so long because you were just on Video Games, a Comedy Show, but years ago we did like a favorite controllers episode.
Yes.
Do you remember this? Sitting in your old house?
Yeah.
So I've had you on my list. I've been like, I know Garrett has to like at least a game. And here we are. So this was so much fun having you. I know we plugged some stuff up top, but where do you want people to find you? Is there anything you want to plug that I can put in the show notes?
You can find me on Instagram, gpalm79. my birth year.
Gorgeous.
I used to have Garrett Palm, but then I got rid, and then I deleted Instagram, and I couldn't get Garrett Palm back.
Oh no!
I know, very sad. And I think Twitter, I'm Garrett Palm, 2 R's, 2 T's.
Yes. Are you on that Blue Sky yet? Do you have any interest in
I
being
am
on Blue Sky?
I am on Blue Sky.
Oh my gosh, I gotta follow you.
I just set it up just like within the last month.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Us and all of our shows. I've like gotten accounts for set up that I use every week, and it's still pretty quiet over there. But I do like it.
Okay. I need to spend more time on there. For some reason, I still just go to Twitter and just get angry for no reason, and it's just the worst way to start my morning.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So I should start migrating over to Blue Sky. I don't know what my name is on Blue Sky.
I did a search and I couldn't find it, so we'll figure it out later.
Okay. And check out Agents of Travel. Check out Tabletop News on YouTube. Check out Eat It or Yeet It on YouTube, on Smosh on YouTube. I have a website, GarrettPalm.com.
Okay, that's
very
nice.
exciting. There's a whole page dedicated to my dog.
Oh,
so just photos
Danny.
of my dog. Yeah, and I should add to that. I'm behind on adding to that. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for leaving us all that good stuff for listeners to find you and support you at. I'll go ahead and just close us out with some plugs of my own. So, without further ado, the cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by the artist Glenn J. You can find him and his great work on Instagram at Glenn with 2 N's .jay. The show is produced, edited, and the music is by the many times mentioned on this episode, Jeremy Schmidt. If you want to give him a thank you for all the hard work he puts into my podcast, you should check out his podcast, also on this network. It's called Video Games, a Comedy Show. It's more of a comedy-focused podcast than this one, but boy, is it fun. You can also check me out all over social media on Twitter, Instagram, on Blue Sky. I'm also on Twitch as well at twitch.tv/consiscool69, where we've started live streaming these episodes. This episode that we're doing now, we've live streamed. So if you want to tune in and get alerts when I'm going live to do podcasts or stream games, you can follow me there. And lastly, the best way you can support us, if you'd like to, is by checking us out on Patreon. We're over at patreon.com/super NPC Radio, where, like I said at the top of the episode, we have a ton of bonus video game content for you. A lot of podcasts. I talked about the Games Club that we're doing and the new one that we'll be doing in the beginning of the year. I also do a version of this podcast that I mentioned earlier, the co-op series, where I have a group of people on to discuss a meaningful game to the group of us. We just did an episode on the original Psychonauts, which is also on YouTube, if you want to find that. And by the way, you should check out the show. We're all over YouTube as well. But next month, we're covering SSX3, the snowboarding video game. Garrett, have you played Tricky before? I bet you're familiar with that.
I probably did. I think my Dreamcast friend had a bunch of these games.
Oh, nice.
Maybe
Very
for
cool.
Dreamcast or maybe for other things. And I think my cousin also had a bunch of these games.
Okay,
I can't
cool.
remember which ones. But
You know, we're hitting December. I was, not wanting to have to pick a big meaty game to cover in a short month work-wise. So I was like, hey, we're going to play a fun snowboarding game. So anyway, if anybody out there wants to find more stuff by us, just check us out on the link in the show notes. But that'll do it for this episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.